I grew up having a great respect for entrepreneurs. I had a great admiration for people who get up in the morning and put a key in a door and start something and create something, or make something work, and along the way put paychecks in a lot of other people's hands. I had an admiration for life running that way. But at the same time, I had the heart of a social worker, and I felt that if there was good to be done, everybody had to come up along with everyone else, that we had to rise together.
Smile and a voice that speaks. Water's dripping, fix the leaks in a town that has a name. Oh, Betty, taken like a pill you could never regret when you first have learned your alphabet, and the numbers have no names. Oh, Betty, she's the girl who you can't forget. She changed the sparrow, she'll change it yet, in a town that has a name. Oh,
we love Betty Stoltz. Betty, you've done so much for Smith Street. Believe me, when you first started, it didn't look like anything as it does today. It wasn't as vital, it wasn't as vibrant, it wasn't as thriving and pulsing as it is. So you've done Brooklyn well, that's all I could say.
My mom has run the South Brooklyn Local Development Corporation for almost 30 years. She also produces the Smith Street Fair and Bastille Day events annually. Her work has included a number of annual events, as well as many unsung community development initiatives. Her career has been as diverse as her street fairs.
Good morning. I'm late. I'm late, and I'm sure there'll be a bunch of people waiting there outside, so I better hurry. Can you believe that the police already called me this morning to tell me the vendors were calling them to find out if there was any more space left? So,
New York is an ever-changing city with constantly evolving neighborhoods. As a Brooklynite, I wanted to make this video to show that there are, and always have been, alternatives to the rapid gentrification and jarring changes that we're seeing today. Having grown up here in the 70s and 80s, the Brooklyn I knew vaguely resembles the one we live in now.
no, don't argue with me. That's what you got. Hi.
I never get the number.
I'm going to give you.
You want to coffee or not?
Oh no. Well, I will, but not yet. I have too many fires to put out. Okay. Whoops.
Hi, Daddy.
Hi.
I moved to the San Francisco Bay Area for a decade or so and witnessed the dot-com boom of the 90s. I felt the effect it had on that city, especially when it came to zoning and real estate. Having moved back here in 2003, I witnessed what seemed like the same kind of wholesale corporate turnover of neighborhoods, from low and middle income into luxury housing areas. As I spent more time with my family, I realized that my mother was an agent of change in Brooklyn as well. A very different kind of slow, more holistic and inclusive change.
Hi, Stinky. Stinky Minky. You're on this block someplace. I have to, I can't do it yet. I have to tell him where he is.
I know your mom very well, and it's one of the reasons I'm coming all the time. We make money, but your mom, she's very nice.
She's a good vibe,
yeah,
right?
Very nice,
Yeah.
and she cares about the vendors. That's something very important.
She cares about what you're doing too,
Yeah.
so tell us a little bit about what you're doing.
I don't have one.
This is the project I started like 10 years ago after I left JP Morgan. Women who've been making this basket were leaving this basket weaving business to become housekeepers and stuff like that. Now they can stay in the village, make some money, and be financially independent. We have about 7,000 women in this project.
And where is it?
It's in Senegal.
What?
It's called the 92 Village Project, and we have a website called 92villages.com.
As she puts it, the first generation of Park Slope yuppies were different from the current ones. Nobody felt entitled because of how much they paid for their living space. What entitled you was what you put into your block, your building, your school, and your community.
So much of what we did was cooperative and collective. All of your nursery schools were cooperative collectives. We built the PTA, and everything we did was done to the degree possible to be inclusive of everyone.
Her leadership arose with the PTA of PS 321. One of her big accomplishments there was a very large, very inclusive, multifaceted fundraising fair in the schoolyard. That, plus international community dinners, were a big success and became annual events. From there, politicians and local merchants started asking her to organize more and more major events every year. In 1979, she started the Complete Street Corporation and produced street fairs in Park Slope and Carroll Gardens on 7th Avenue and Court Street. She started the first ever 7th Avenue Street Fair, called the Seventh Heaven, which my dad named. She had a desk in the Kenny the Mover's office for several years above a store on 7th Avenue near Carroll Street, where she ran the Park Slope Chamber of Commerce. It was a time of community building. She helped find team sponsorships and helped organize the first ever Park Slope Little League parade. She also worked closely with the Park Slope Shopper, a weekly circular and ad zine that was a staple of Park Slope in the 70s. At the time New York City was reeling from abandonment, the city wanted to restore shopping streets to shore up the surrounding areas. The era of commercial revitalization grants had begun, and the tract of Flatbush Avenue between Atlantic Avenue and Grand Army Plaza was one of the first to get the grants. North Flatbush Avenue Betterment Committee needed a project manager, and Betty was hired because of her reputation with the street fairs. In the first 2 years, she presided over, cheerleaded, and organized a transformation of the street life in that tract of Flatbush. For example, porno shops and an X-rated movie theater became a first-run twin cinema. An abandoned storefront housed new businesses like the Charcuterie, which was appealing to a whole new audience. She oversaw Triangle Park improvements, tree planting, and the placement of Victorian street clocks and street lights. She curated the street a lot like she curates her fairs. Early on, she was able to hire new college graduate Michelle Gelber. This began another love of her working life, the inputting of a holistic community development philosophy into young minds.
When I got to Flatbush Avenue in '82, it was right on the verge of possible gentrification. It was a neighborhood that had been in decline for many decades before that, and there were a few indications that this was one of the neighborhoods that could be moving up the ladder, which is why the city decided to invest money on that street through the commercial revitalization program. Never in a million years did we ever think Brooklyn or Flatbush Avenue would have the kind of prosperity and the gentrification that it's seeing now. Never in a gazillion million years. It is shocking.
Then Borough President Howard Golden brought a request to my mother. Try to organize the owners and operators of all the properties in the Coney Island amusement area. Betty became a consultant paid by Murray Handworker, then owner of Nathan's Famous. She was given an office on the second floor directly above the hot dog stand. The biggest obstacles there were the people she had to deal with, which ultimately made the mission impossible. She has said, "They were the most difficult cast of characters I have ever tried to organize. Even the nicest gentlemen among them were constantly suing each other. It was the worst year of my working life.
Well, think positive. Be in a good mood.
I tried long time.
Take a Prozac.
Take a Prozac.
What can I say?
That's what you get on to. Take a Prozac, right?
Betty grew up in the Flatbush Midwood section of Brooklyn, in a warm, comfortable community of extended family. She's the only child of first-generation immigrants from Russia and Eastern Europe, Elsie and Kershey Meyerson. Her mom was a bookkeeper for a window cleaning company who got her high school diploma in night school. My grandfather, Kershey, was a customs agent. He was sick a lot, so she spent many nights and holidays doing homework in the hospital. She got a bachelor's degree at Brooklyn College and went into social work at the Bureau of Child Welfare. It was a time of racial turmoil and white flight in the city and the height of the civil rights era. She met my dad, a French immigrant, in the late 60s, and they raised me and my brother in Park Slope. During this time, some merchants from Smith Street approached her to help form the Merchants Association of Smith Street. She was hired as a project manager for the New York City Public Development Corporation Commercial Revitalization Grant to the Merchants Association of Smith Street. At that time, in 1984, Smith Street was a badly sagging shopping street, both physically and figuratively, in that it had a crumbling and dangerously sagging sidewalk and a 27% vacancy rate. There were a limited variety of businesses that offered little to serve the needs of the people who were moving in. The northern end of the commercial street was mainly owned by Puerto Rican families who immigrated here in the 40s and 50s. The southern end was mainly Italian families from an earlier 20th century migration. There was a little crossover on both sides, plus a good sprinkling of Middle Eastern immigrants here and there. The surrounding community was changing rapidly due to its handsome row house building stock and the Back to the City movement. Young families were moving in and renovating and rapidly becoming the main customer base. But the merchants and property owners of Smith Street were not attracting them to their stores.
In many cases, it's a question of personal taste or the taste of the tastemakers in society at that time. For example, when I started working on Smith Street, the buildings and the stores were mainly serving poor people, making a very good living serving poor people, but they were not prepared for the influx of brownstone that were coming into the neighborhoods, opening up, renovating rather, buildings right around the corner, and not being able to find the things that they wanted in their homes in the stores that were already existing around the corner from them. So it became a situation where there were thousands and thousands of individual conversations. For example, the liquor store that used to sell liquor from behind plexiglass cage had to be convinced to try placing a few bottles artistically in a wicker basket, a few bottles of wine, and tempting people so that they would have something they wanted to buy in the store and become customers there. The hardware store, which at the beginning only sold incandescent or fluorescent bulbs, had to be convinced to carry spotlights and torpedo-shaped bulbs and the things that the customers that were moving in wanted to buy. And once people took a chance on each other, the shopkeeper taking the chance by stocking things that he had never sold before, and the customer taking a chance of walking into a store where he had not shopped before, people began to realize that in the end we're all just people, and yes, I'll remember their name, they remember my name, they smile and say hello, nice to see you again, and voila, you have a customer.
Hey.
Hi. Hi.
How you doing? How's it going out?
Actually, it's working out fine, And, I mean...
People are behaving?
Huh?
People are behaving?
People are behaving.
So the community development job was really an educating job aimed at several different constituencies and accomplished by thousands of individual conversations. It was at this time that she established the SBLDC, South Brooklyn Local Development Corporation, out of a storefront on Smith Street. Regardless of which constituency she was talking to, she made sure that they understood what was going on around them and exercised their rights and options so that everyone could get their piece of the pie. She worked to address the existing needs of the community. For example, dismissal time was very disruptive on Smith Street, so she created some long-standing and very effective after-school programs. This in turn led to a better atmosphere at dismissal time, even as the middle school was joined by 3 small high schools in the area. The culinary arts program brought local deli owners and chefs into the classroom to discuss the food service industry. Eventually, it became a 3-year course of high school study. The Shadow program gave thousands of students their first employment experiences and lasted 15 years in over 9 schools. The businesses loved it because it gave them an opportunity to give back in a structured and relevant way.
I just broke a nail so far down that I need a little scissor. Well, no, I just don't want to.
There's actually a
You have a little
nail clipper. No, there's a nail clipper.
Awesome.
Okay.
This is a good day. This is a good day.
Do you want me to follow you to your office?
A day in the life of Betty.
And the Smith Street Fair, and they're really all the businesses that are on Smith Street represent really a wonderful blending of some of the best from yesterday and some of the new shops that are defining today and tomorrow. And really, you can see the future of Brooklyn being written right here, and I think our future is okay. Betty, like I said, you've done good.
Listen, I'm Betty's daughter, and I'm doing a little documentary on her. And I was wondering if you could tell me, like, how long have you known my mom?
Oh my God, it seems like I was talking about that yesterday, and I think it's been maybe very close to 15 years we've been doing this and working with her.
Wow.
Yeah, such a wonderful woman.
I love your mom. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So you do this every year then?
Every year. I drop everything else and I do this.
This one's great. It's like, and it's more intimate, this one,
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, these are the best fairs. The ones in New York, Manhattan are just so like, the cliche kind of thing. This one's got like, the local vendors and, local artists. And, local flavor.
Hello? What happened?
Is there any chance to move or not?
I'm sold out.
Until one here and the second is here, correct or no?
Correct.
Yes? It's good?
Yes, and she gets here.
Okay.
Here.
So I think she's this lady. No?
Too crowded.
She's looking for, no?
She does not go there. She has to go there. And this store goes here.
Okay, go.
She orchestrates her projects like she orchestrates her street fairs, getting everyone to fall in line with the greater goal being to better everyone's experience of their neighborhood.
Hi, Artie, don't talk to me.
She decides to work on projects and initiatives that will benefit all affected people, with equity being the prevailing principle. She employs her will of steel to bend the bureaucratic machine, and sometimes she simply bosses people around until they comply.
Where'd she go? Jean-Jacques! From this blue line to that blue line is this store,
That's
okay?
it.
Yes.
Nobody else.
Nobody else.
Okay.
No.
She has made my dad her tech guru and personal assistant.
And I wish you would come earlier also, because I always have to give you the last block, Where? I cannot.
No more.
Okay, wait. These people are ahead of you.
I absolutely don't understand where is my spot.
All the while, she has worked tirelessly, had a good time, and made an impact on Brooklyn.
Absolutely don't understand. Okay.
Okay, wait.
Okay. From
One blue line to the next
another blue line.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. One spot like my spot, 10 feet. Another spot, maybe 15, maybe 16 feet. I don't understand where is my spot.
I don't know how that happened. I'll send
No.
my husband out. Yes. Okay, let me tell you where you are. Hold on a sec. Yeah. Wait a minute. Just a minute. Look, the corner you start right. See the blue lines?
Yeah.
You start where the blue lines are.
Right.
Warren Street, corner of Warren Street, Flamingo Bodega.
No, he's back now.
Okay?
He's back now.
How many years have you been doing this, Betty?
Oh, since 1979 when we started Seventh Heaven.
78.
78? Seventh Heaven?
Seventh Heaven?
Yeah.
No, that's a
I was
good. That's a big.
I
That's
was
a nice
the mother
festival.
of Seventh Heaven. Yes.
Festival. Yeah.
And I was the father of Seventh Heaven. I give it its name.
I gave it to
So,
Mary Ann.
yeah, really, true.
I don't. Yeah.
And it's been a wonderful life.
Because I know a lot about
Yes.
So Seventh Heaven was first,
Seventh Heaven was first, yes.
and then what came after Seventh Heaven?
Oh, Court Street, I think, was one of the next one we did, and it's all lost in a blur.
In addition to her education initiatives, the Treasures Thrift Emporium project lasted over a decade and produced 3 retail locations and over 50 jobs.
Well, you know, Betty's done so many things for the community, so it's hard to pick. But I remember, which was a very creative and forward-thinking idea, was when she started the thrift shop and was training women to work in the shop and giving them work skills.
These, Erica, both Donna.
I remember.
Yes. How you been? Yeah. You look so great.
Oh my God! Yes. She was my best boss too, but she's great.
Tell us
she
about
looks
the place
good.
where you guys worked.
Yes, it was a non-profit organization for non-working women that didn't know all about jobs, and it was fantastic. It worked out good. We learned a whole lot.
It gave a place for people to make donations, gave a place for people to be able to purchase items that were...
Too bad it's not around anymore.
That's right, but it was a wonderful, wonderful idea, and it was very important at that time. I think it made a significant difference.
Ultimately, the Thrift Store project was a victim of its own success, having helped raise real estate values on Smith Street. They closed because the rent became too high.
Love you. She's wonderful. She's still the same.
Nice. You got that at this fair?
Yeah.
Where'd you get it?
That was the last one.
Oh,
So you
okay.
can't go back.
Smith Street gave Betty an opportunity to maintain diversity while encouraging economic development. The culmination of this is the Smith Street Fair. With the fair, Betty's able to curate an atmosphere where there's something for everybody. And the vendors are mostly artisans themselves. She encourages a multicultural experience that mirrors her own love of food and travel, Smith Street being the microcosm of New York and the world.
In 1990, Betty started volunteering for the Community Board 6 Waterfront Economic Development Committee. They were responding to requests that indigenous forces might lead a community development effort in Red Hook. They got the SBLDC to administer the grants, and the city funded another office on Van Brunt Street.
They mentored and supervised 14 Red Hook teenagers in the Summer Youth Employment Program, who surveyed every single block and created an impressive directory of Red Hook businesses. They learned that it was not the retail businesses that were the big employment drivers, but the blue-collar businesses who were providing the most and best-paying jobs. This began the city's first programs for industrial business areas, the forerunners of today's industrial business zones. They implemented employment training programs like Red Hook on the Road, which is a truck driving training program.
Have you bought anything yet?
Yes, I have. I've bought things that twirl in the wind, bird cages, earrings, jewelry of various sorts, 2 beautiful blouses, a few things for my grandchildren.
Wow.
What did I buy for you?
Mommy curates this fair with stuff that she wants to buy, so she doesn't have to go shopping around.
Exactly.
She can have it all in one place.
Red Hook is full of waterfront property, skyline and harbor views, and big empty spaces. The Gowanus is wedged between Trendy Park Slope and Trendy Carroll Gardens. Developers used to fly over in helicopters to pick out the pieces of real estate they wanted to research. There were constant requests for zoning variances and hearing after hearing at the Board of Standards and Appeals, as well as constant pressures on the Department of City Planning for rezoning. Luxury housing was clearly considered a higher and better use by developers than providing jobs for working families. Big box stores wanted into the New York City market, namely huge stores with very ample parking. The first was Home Depot. It hired locally and served a wide diversity of people with a very wide diversity of merchandise. Following that was Lowe's. When IKEA and Fairway were proposed for Red Hook, despite the desire of the SBLDC to keep the neighborhood for blue-collar businesses, they couldn't oppose the projects because they were big job creators. Besides, retail is a much more compatible neighbor to industry than is luxury housing. SBLDC supported these projects and testified on their behalf at many hearings. The future of South Brooklyn's industrial area is a battle that's still going on today. The local people who met during the testimonies at the Board of Standards and Appeals and the city planning meetings decided to put into abeyance their specific wishes for the future of the Gowanus and Red Hook area and focus on one thing, which was the cleaning up of the polluted Gowanus Canal. Betty is one of the founding members of FROG, Friends and Residents of Greater Gowanus. That organization led the campaign to support the EPA's designation of the Gowanus Canal as a Superfund site. She continues to be deeply involved in the Superfund process, as well as producing the Smith Street Fair and Bastille Day events annually. It seems that lately, some folks think development means replacing the old with the shiny new. But I wonder, what good is development if it doesn't serve the people in the communities that are being developed? So it's important for you to be active in your own community so you can have a voice in how things get shaped. Because if you don't, somebody else is going to come in and shape it for you. Sometimes my mom says she thinks she did too good of a job making Brooklyn appealing for corporate interests. I think her legacy is in the programs she developed and how she worked tirelessly to be inclusive. She had to have, as she puts it, thousands and thousands of little conversations to make sure that everybody knew what was going on around them. I feel the story of her work life as a community developer is an important one to tell now in the face of all the large-scale change around us. I wanted to show community development projects that happened slowly over time with the goal being the benefit of all residents and businesses in the area.
They haven't put the sand down yet. Well, okay.
Well, things have to happen in a certain sequence. Okay? They can't start setting up things before other things have been done. Oh, God. You have to know that, I mean, the witness protection program, I cannot be quoted or filmed.
Okay. We don't believe you. Anyway, so things have to happen in a certain order, which means that people are trying to get them done out of order. And
Exactly.
And mommy has to kind of regulate the situation.
Yeah.